Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to talk about classic Doctor Who. And my question is, what Dalek story do you find the most disappointing? Not necessarily bad, not even necessarily the most underrated, but just the one that you personally, subjectively, find the most disappointing for whatever reason. Mine is going to be a controversial choice. Mine is actually Remembrance of the Daleks. I'll give you all a second to pick yourselves off the floor. Now, I know some people would expect something like, say, Destiny. Destiny is very mediocre, but Destiny has a reputation for being very mediocre. And to be fair, I like Destiny more and more every time I watch it. It has a strong rewatchability for me, which is one of the reasons I like it. If something has a strong rewatchability, to me, it goes a long way for me. And I watched Destiny. I've watched it twice in the past year, one of which was like just a week ago. I could turn around and watch Destiny again tomorrow and enjoy it. I don't have to wait a year or two per viewing to enjoy that one. Maybe it's, I like the location work. I love Tom Baker in it. I like the design of the Movellans, even if it's a little silly. Plus it has the updated special effects and even the new updated audio for Davros's voice, which helps a lot. But it's always fun to watch. It's a bit mediocre. I've even called it the most mediocre Dalek story, but more and more, I always enjoy a rewatch of it. It never gets old or boring to me. And most of the other stories live up to their reputations. Genesis lives up to its reputation. Power and Evil live up to their reputations. I love the animations of those. And I really like Day of the Daleks and Death to the Daleks a lot. I do think Planet might be a little overrated. I'm not as big on Planet. But the one that just really disappoints me is Remembrance. Because, let me be clear, Remembrance is good. All three of the 80s Dalek stories are good. I like all of them. So I'm not trying to say Remembrance is bad. Remembrance is good. Remembrance is great. The problem with Remembrance is it has such a good reputation. And it doesn't quite live up to that for me. Because the things that bug me about Remembrance really bug me. Like, you have some things that might irk you slightly, but you can look past them. There are some things in this story that just drive me nuts. Now, I haven't watched Remembrance in a while. I don't own it. I've seen it multiple times. I've seen it at least twice, maybe 3 times. I'm not sure, but I don't own it. And I do need to see it again. I'm looking forward to that season 25 box set coming out eventually, because I do want to see it with some fresh eyes. One thing is the little girl in it drives me nuts. Especially with her turning out to be basically the person who's controlling one of the groups of the Daleks. And it tricks you into thinking it's Davros when it's really just the little girl. And I don't know, it just doesn't play well for me. And plus that sometimes when you see her in the story running around, it plays that little children's tune that is so annoying. It's like the second most annoying piece of music in Doctor Who after that Ballad of Johnny Ringo. I think of it the same way I think of the Ballad of Johnny Ringo, and you guys know I hate that. So whenever it's playing it, I'm just like, this seems so cheap and childish and silly. Silly. That's when Remembrance of the Daleks becomes silly for me. Every time I hear that, it really bugs me. Some of the other guest actors, their acting doesn't seem up to par for me. The brigade leader or whatever he's called. Not the brigadier, but the guy who's kind of this story's version of the brigadier. I don't think I like his acting going from memory. The guy who turns out to be the traitor, I don't really think I cared for his acting in the story. Again, been a while since I've seen it. It's got a lot of good stuff going on. I love the opening shot before the credits of the ship. That's neat, because Doctor Who doesn't do that much in Classic Who, so I really like that. I like Ace beating up the Dalek with the bat. That's really cool. I love that this is the first time we really see Chessmaster McCoy. We're really starting to see that darker side of McCoy. I love the whole ending with his speech to Davros. His speech to Davros is amazing. And it's the first time you really see this side of McCoy. And I can imagine seeing it for the first time in the late 80s just being floored. Like, oh! Davros in this, I really don't like how he's realized in the Emperor's suit. I like how on paper it tricks you into thinking Davros is with one group of Daleks, because when you see the girl you think it's Davros, and then that the other side is just the Emperor Dalek, and that turns out to be Davros. That's a nice little misdirection, mislead. It's great on paper. It doesn't quite work in execution for me. It's more silly than anything. Like when the hood flips up and it's Davros in there, it just looks campy and silly. where if that had been realized like with modern effects and it had been like a big Emperor Dalek and everything just with CGI pulled back to reveal Davros in his chair like traditional looking Davros, that would have been cool. Naturally, they couldn't do that back then. And it ends up looking silly with him the way he's done in this episode. It looks silly. It's hard for me to take it seriously. I love the fact we see the flying Dalek for the first time. That's cool. I like that. The scene when it shows from the Dalek's point of view targeting on the Doctor, I really don't like that effect, that greenish. I don't really like that. It looks weird to me. But the Dalek actually hovering up the stairs and the idea that the Dalek can do that is fascinating. I love the fact that there is a civil war going on with the Daleks, that's still carrying over from Resurrection and Revelation. I like that. That's really cool. I love the idea of a civil war between Daleks because one Dalek is so different that the other Daleks don't consider them Daleks anymore. We see this explored further in Victory of the Daleks and in Revolution of the Daleks. And I love that concept. It's one of the reasons I like Revolution of the Daleks, besides being a good episode, is that it does call back to that theme from Remembrance. So I like Remembrance. It does a lot of good things. It's just those things that bug me really bug me. And I don't feel like Remembrance lives up to its reputation. I don't think it's like one of the best Dalek stories ever. It's not even the best. It's my least favorite Dalek story of the 80s. I do need to give it a rewatch. And when I rewatch it, of course, I'll review it. But I do find it the most disappointing Classic Who story because it just has those things that really bug me. So that's my thoughts on that. I would like to know which classic Dalek story do you think is the most disappointing. And while I have you here, other fun things to do. Click the like button and the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already. We're almost at 700 subscribers. We're knocking on the door. I'm trying to reach 700 by the end of March. That is my goal. Also, all the other fun stuff. I do have a Patreon down in the description below if you would like to support me that way. A special shout out to Stephen Crane, one of my top tier patrons. I appreciate his support and the support of all of my patrons. I have a P.O. box down there as well if there's anything you would like to send me, and a link to my Amazon wish list as well if you would like to send me anything from that. But most importantly, thank you for watching.